Hello and welcome to the 6th edition. I'm Charles Pius. In the headlines, FBI seeks court approval to explain reasons behind closed doors. Lawmaker CSO demand urgent rescue of 78 children. 5 arrested in $37 million meth lab burst near Zimbabwe border. Details in a moment. The United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, is asking the U.S. federal courts for permission to explain behind closed doors why it is withholding some investigative records linked to President Bola Tinubu. The FBI says releasing the information could expose law enforcement techniques and potentially endanger the lives or physical safety of individuals. The records are being sought by Aaron Greenspan through Freedom of Information Act requests covering investigations from the early 1990s. The agency says it cannot publicly provide the full basis for some exemptions and wants to submit the explanation directly to the judge under seal. It plans to file the declaration before August 28th, if permitted. The case follows the 2025 ruling in which Judge Beryl Howell ordered the FBI and DEA to lift their refusal to confirm or deny whether Tinubu was the subject of a criminal investigation. Dr. Charles Oludare, Texas-based public affairs analyst, joins us live for this discussion. Dr. Charles, many thanks for joining us. I mean, we are back on this road. The campaigns have kicked off, and of course, these issues are going to resurface once again. Now, the first question would be, if the FBI is asking to explain its reasons for withholding records behind closed doors, are there specifically something that you think that they may be hiding?
Well, the FBI is a secret organization, and the FBI, I can tell you, does not give a hoot about the president of Nigeria. This is the same administration that, did the security enforcement against the president of Venezuela, assassinated the ruler of Iran. So the FBI is only trying to protect the process and its methods. Because when you think about it, even in that case, the man Bola Tinubu was not the subject of the investigation. There was an investigation into a white guy, Edward, and his associates, and it was in reviewing their financial records that they saw that Agbele had opened an account with Tinubu. So if they are going to release a file or files about President Tinubu, the FBI would have to be releasing their methods and materials, and they have ongoing investigations whereby they will have, agents currently deeply embedded in a lot of criminal organizations that by, exposing these methods and materials might compromise the safety of those agents. And that is strictly what the FBI, is trying to protect. And it is standard practice for a very long time. They keep a lot of things under wraps for generations even. So I am not surprised that FBI is trying not to release this document. But the one thing that is surprising to me is the fact that the opposition is still pushing this Dodd case. The Yoruba people have something that but at least that is multiple different kind of conspiracies against one person. If you are bringing up the same conspiracy over and over again after it has been defeated, then that makes it Egberiote and no longer Egberiote, because this is no longer a viable conspiracy. This is a matter that has been tried, tested, and found not to be effective. So I am surprised that they are still chasing these shadows, but I believe this is an advantage for Tinubu because, if your opponents are chasing shadows and distracting themselves and wasting their own times, what will you do? You will help them waste their time. It is like the famous Yoruba saying, right? If your enemies are wasting their time, you help them to waste their time and keep them in court.
But don't you also think that it is about time for us to really put this to bed? Let them expose what the content is. Let everybody know what exactly this is about. Even as a Nigerian, wouldn't you also want to know what really happened in the 1990s? Put this to bed and let everybody continue their lives. Don't you think that is actually very important?
Well, the information that they have is different from the one that they are looking for. The one that they are looking for are the secret, all files on Tinubu, very generic, right? So that will include the materials and methods. But from the information publicly available, I can tell you my own inference that I have that I have done. And I am not currently a supporter of president, and I have resigned my membership of APC. So I'm not saying this because I am a spokesperson for them. But here are the facts of the case. When they tell you that President Tinubu forfeited $420,000 in 1993, they don't tell you that the US government gave him back about $1.6 million. So I have never known in history a time where the federal government of the United States give part payments to criminals. There was a settlement whereby they had seized $2 million of his money, and then they gave him back 1.6, and they said he has not paid taxes amongst other things, right? That is the first thing. The second thing that is just common sense based on my own inference is that, Charles, if Hush Puppy was your friend, and you know he's a fraudster, and the FBI is calling you to ask, do you know Hush Puppy? Are you in business with him? I am pretty sure, based on your foreknowledge of his fraudulent activities, you are going to deny knowing him as much as you can, right? When they called this man, he said he knew these guys and that he was in business with them. It was not until a few months later that he called back and did what you would have expected it to do in the first place, which was deny the knowledge of those people that I don't know them or I am not in business with them. So if you look at the the process of this case, there is no there. If you look at even the history of Nigeria after Abacha took over, and if you look at it also, President Tinubu made that settlement about 3 weeks after, what's it called, Babangida, and not the June 12, 1993 election. I don't know if it is related. Look at it also from that same period, from the incidences in the 90s. President Tinubu escaped to, I believe, Republic or Togo, and then from there went to the UK, and then the United States allowed him to come into the United States without a passport. We have all seen what happened to the king of Ikpetumodu, to one of the aides of governor of Ogun State. President
Charles Oludare right there giving his insight into his knowledge about this development. But we'll keep an eye on that with a view to bringing you some detail regarding this. And elsewhere, the lawmaker representing Askira Uba Hau federal constituency, alongside families and community leaders, is demanding urgent federal government action to rescue 78 children abducted in 2 separate attacks in Askira Uba, Borno State. 42 pupils and students were abducted from Mussa Primary and Junior Day Secondary School on May 15th by suspected Boko Haram terrorists and have remained in captivity since. The abduction occurred around the same period as the Orire students' kidnapping in Oyo State. Meanwhile, the Zenith of the Girl, Child and Women Initiative supports Zegs Kawis is calling on the federal and Borno State governments to make the rescue of all 78 children a national priority. Speaking in Maiduguri, the group's executive director, Aisha Tukabu, described what she described as limited national attention and media coverage of the abductions, warning that continued silence undermines the responsibility of government to protect its citizens.
If government can mobilize necessary resources, intelligence, coordination by security agencies to rescue abducted school children elsewhere, we demand that the same agency and treatment be meted out to our children. We demand determination and commitment be deployed to rescue our children and loved ones in Borno State. We are not asking for preferential treatment. We are asking for equal protection.
Among those people that you are seeing here, you can see a father where his wife and 5-month daughter were adopted. 127 days they have been in captivity. I am not talking about a hearsay, I'm talking about a direct family. As a representative of Askira Uba Hawul Federal Constituency, it has been a sleepless night. It is so devastating that most times I lost appetite.
Life has not been easy. We are devastated. We are pleading that the government should please intervene and rescue our people. My sister, she's an orphan. All her hope is in me and also the government. And me, I don't have any voice. I call on the government to please intervene on this situation and rescue our people back home.
Heartbreaking story, really. Joining us right in the studio right now is Midala Balami is a representative as Kira Uba Hawu Federal Constituency, Borno State. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
I can only imagine the situation. I mean, you represent these people.
Yeah.
Tell us specifically what these parents are telling you regarding the abduction of their kids.
Thank you for the opportunity and the platform. Thank you, Nigerians. First of all, let me say it's a situation that is undescribable. The parents have different level of shock and how they are responding to this shock. You know, these children, the Mussa children, were adopted on the 15th of May. Today is 101 days. They have been in horror, and nobody is aware of their situation as they stand today. Try to have that kind of imagination. Each time I go to my room to check on my kids, the thought of these children, when it's raining, when it's in the night, when people are eating food, and when young children are even sleeping in their rooms and mosquito one bite, try to just imagine the situation. A 5-year-old baby, a 1-year-old child is out there for 100 days.
Do you feel helpless? Because I mean, you are one of the leaders of this community.
Completely.
I mean, and you are with the federal government. Have you been able to communicate to security agencies on how serious this is? Because it almost looks like
this situation happened on the 15th of May. We were on recess and we quickly returned the upper week. That's 2nd of June. I quickly picked a motion on urgent public importance, calling on government, and the House had a resolutions. And the resolutions include asking the federal government, the state government to come together, provide intelligent coordinations, a strategic approach to be able to rescue these children. These 42 children that were rescued on the 15th, subsequently 36 were also adopted in Lhasa on the 29th June. And don't forget, along this path also, there were about 38 that were adopted 15th of February. They are 127 days. These are different set of adoptions that directly affect our people.
Honorable member, it pains me, but again, who should do this job? Who should find a way around it? Because
there's no ambiguity. There's no ambiguity.
Yes.
The Constitution have specifically put it. The government, the responsibility of government.
You are part of government.
The constitutional responsibility of your government,
yes,
is to ensure safety and welfare of its people.
Have you failed in that?
As a legislator, I have done my job, and I'm still doing my job, even as I speak with you.
Right.
As a legislator, our responsibility is to ensure that we take off issues that directly affect the life.
Well, you haven't done that in this case.
I have done it.
You haven't.
I have done motion. I have followed up with the Constitution, with the responsible agencies, because those resolutions are the actions that I've taken.
Right.
And these are the situation. And let me tell you, aside from some of this engagement we are having, like we are talking now, the government must understand that even if nobody talks, they must stand up to do their work.
Absolutely. I mean, let's engage our reporter who is on the ground. Umaru Kirawa, if you can hear me, give us an update on what's going on from the community.
Well, it's a painful story from the side of the community. About 100 days now, the children have not yet been rescued. Actions and inactions do not speak much more louder than the parents are expecting. And we were with the parents earlier in the day in Uba town, and following their protest in Uba, they decided to move down to Maiduguri. And from what I'm getting, from information we're getting, reliably, the parents of the abducted Mussa students are meeting with the governor, possibly to discuss ways on how these children can be rescued, what should the government do, and of course amplify their voice to ensure that deliberate efforts are being put in place, and much more muscular efforts put in place in collaboration with the federal government, because largely the state government has sent delegation to the community led by the Commissioner for Education, where they went there to sympathize and reassure the community members that their children will be back. But the federal government has not yet said anything. And that is much more the concern of the parents of the abducted children, and of course community members advocating on the federal government, particularly the President Bola Tinubu, to match his words with action on the renewed hope agenda to come in place to ensure that people are safe, to ensure that all those that have been abducted are rescued alive and people go about their daily activities.
All right. Specifically on the ground, tell us really, the local government authorities where you are, what are they really saying? Is there any urgency, that you could tell us specifically about the actions and activities of government regarding, making sure that these kids are released?
Well, the actions is expected from the government side and from the authorities. It's purely reassurance that these children will be back. But the parents are concerned. The team is penning them very. That is why, in fact, they had to collectively move out from the community. In fact, some of them had to borrow money from community members. Some of them, we were in Uber. They had to sell the grains that they have in their houses to pay transport money to move out from their community to Uba town, and subsequently from Uba town to Maiduguri. So it's a very painful one. The community members are expecting action. The community members, the parents are expecting the government to rescue these children. They said all they want is to ensure that their children are back. And that is all they want from the government. Besides this, they don't want anything from the government. And this is the present situation of the parents. They are advocating on the federal government. They are calling on President Bola Tinubu. They are calling on the security agencies to step up efforts. In fact, civil society organizations too are calling on the government to also step up efforts. Earlier in the day, civil society organization made a press conference appealing on the Nigerian authorities to step up efforts. The silence is too much on the issue of the Borno abduction incident, particularly that of Lassa and Mussa. And that is why everybody is now coming up on board to advocate for the rescue of these children.
Midala, we've gone past assurances and reassurances. There must be concrete steps. Yeah. For someone who is representing this location, these people in this place, you can't be assuring them anything right now. You should be telling them on this day, this particular day, these kids would be out. Can you give that assurance now?
And that is where it's very painful. Reasons are very glaring. These kids were adopted on the 15th. Coincidentally, they were adopted with the children, school children, and teachers in Oyo State. And these children and teachers in Oyo State have been rescued. Now, 100 days. What is happening?
You feel that government...
No, what we are saying, the government have enormous resources, and they deploy those resources, intelligence, coordination, strategy. They put it all together, and they were able to rescue the school children of Oyo State.
You don't think that the federal government is not doing the same thing for Borno kids?
This is what even you can answer.
Is that what you're saying?
That is very glaring. You can even answer that. You can answer it even yourself.
I cannot answer it. That is very glaring.
Even within the media space, you can see that some people are even beginning to forget about.
So you are telling us now that you as a rep member are part of a government. You are telling us that the federal government is not deploying resources to release Borno State.
I am saying as a legislator that we, as on our part, are pushing the executive to deploy their resources that they have at their own disposal. We are calling on the President of Nigeria. We are calling on the Governor of Borno State that they should work together. We are talking about lives. We are not talking about other priority. This is a national, important and national priority. And we are saying that the federal government should strategically deploy those resources to rescue the school children, 78 of them. 100 days they've been in captivity. And that is why it is no longer an issue that we need to talk about just assurance.
And you know, in instances where people were kidnapped, the government itself have to give a transparent communication. This is the strategy, this is what we are doing, this is where we are, even if they are not given details, even if not to all.
Right.
That communication should be there, channel.
So it's not there now. So we look forward to that, and hopefully in due course, they will be released.
Thank you.
Many thanks. Midala Balami, thank you so much for
Thank you
your
so
time.
much
We
for
truly
the
appreciate
privilege,
it.
and we continue to pray for the safe return of our children.
All right. We also appreciate Kirk Kirawa, who is in Borno State, giving us an up-to-speed with the developments there in Borno State. We're headed for a short break. When we return, the news continues. Do stay with us. Today, the world marks the International Day of Remembrance and tribute to the victims of terrorism, observed every year on August 21st. The day honors those who have lost their lives to terrorism while recognizing survivors and calling for greater support and protection for victims. In Nigeria, where terrorism continues to claim lives, the occasion offers a sobering reminder of the human cost of violence. Terrorism continues to take a deadly toll in Nigeria. Between 2021 and 2025, 2,669 people were killed in terrorist attacks. The highest figure was recorded in 2025, with 750 deaths, up 46.2% from the previous year. Nigeria ranks fourth globally on the latest Global Terrorism Index with a score of 7.792. 6 of the world's 10 most terrorism-affected countries are in Africa. Nigeria and other African countries are responding through military operations, stronger laws, intelligence sharing, border security, and measures to disrupt terrorist financing. They are also investing in preventing, rehabilitation, and regional cooperation to tackle the threat. Joining us virtually is Olatunbosun Abonariwa, counter-terrorism and counter-crime experts. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Now, this is scary. I mean, with 2,669 people killed in terrorist attacks between 2021 and 25, including 750 deaths in 2025 alone. What is the federal government doing differently to reverse the rising trend in terrorism-related deaths?
Well, before we say that, we really need to recognize the fact that it is an incident that has affected lives. It is an incident where people are not seeing their loved one again. It is an incident where some people does not even know whether their loved one are alive or not. We remember that the Chibok girls are still out, some Chibok girls are still outstanding, and some other little packages of kidnapping are still at large. And finally, the issue of Leah Sharibu is still outstanding. And before we do anything in respect of this, we need to first pray. We need to recognize the fact that some people are dead, and we pray for their soul to rest in peace. We also want to pray for the families that are going through one thing or the other in respect of this, that God will give them the fortitude to bear this. Now, the issue we seem to have with the government is that it will be unfair to say that government are not doing enough. It will be unfair to say that government are not putting resources in place to help all the people at large. But we need to recognize the fact that it is an ongoing problem, and it requires an ongoing effort and solution in order for this to be taken care of. So I wouldn't want to say that the government is not doing enough. I can only appeal to the government that the situation is affecting lives, and the government should see it as such and do all that is necessary to make sure that all those in painful and difficult captivities are brought back safe and alive, just the way they achieved it in
I mean,
State.
if you can hear me, you said that you don't want to say that the government isn't really doing enough. How much is enough? I mean, in terms of doing enough, you would say that, well, we used to be this and now we are this. But we are the fourth most terrorized nation in the world. It is that bad. How much is enough for you? When would you see certain moves or certain results for you to say, well, the government has really done well? Because clearly you say that the government is doing something. But again, this something, is it enough?
You see, terrorism or solution to terrorism is not something that is manufactured in a laboratory. It is something that has to do with terrain. It is something that has to do with the belief of the people around that place. It is something that has to do with how prepared are we as nation and as government. Yeah, we can say that government still has a long way to go in their counter-terrorism initiatives. But to say they are not doing enough, I won't be able to say that. And I think the government who are listening here today, that we still have people in captivities that needs to be free. And I strongly don't want to believe that they've gone to fold their hands. Maybe it was easier I had the legislator speaking just before me, talking about appealing. So him, that is very closer to the government, if all he can do is to appeal to the same government where he is, I think I, as an expert in this field, can only share my advice and some kind of advice with the government on how they need to improve on whatever it is they are doing. I can understand that terrains may be more difficult. I can understand that the type of technology that was deployed in one place may not be visible at other places, where all communication gadgets have been pulled down by terrorists deliberately to make it difficult for government to reach them. I can understand the fact that there may be something we call poverty of ideas on the part of those in the theaters and those who want to be on ground. So that, all that being said, doesn't mean that I will say that the government should fold their hands. If there is an opportunity to do more, if there is opportunity to use intelligence better than the way they used it at Orire, I am appealing to them too to do the same. But having said that, I must also say that from the period people are abducted and taken into captivity to the period where they are released, there is no government in the world that can place a time on when the solution or the desired solution will come true. So in view of this, that is why I'm going to say that, well, government, you have tried. We want you to do more in bringing these people back home. It is heartbreaking to hear that a 1-year-old child is somewhere in the forest. We don't even know whether he's alive or not to talk of every other citizens that the government has responsibility over to bring home.
Olatunbosun Abolarinwa, many thanks. Appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
We're headed for a short break. When we return, the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, in partnership with Christian Blind Mission and other stakeholders, are calling for stronger enforcement of the National Disability Act to ensure persons with disabilities have equal access to basic services and opportunities. Welcome back. The National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, in partnership with Christian Blind Mission and other stakeholders, are calling for stronger enforcement of the National Disability Act to ensure persons with disabilities have equal access to basic services and opportunities. The call was made at a biannual review meeting in Abuja on the implementation of the National Disability Act, organized under the Disability Rights Advocacy Project for Inclusive Development. As they say, gaps in enforcement, accessibility and awareness continue to hinder inclusion. They are calling on government and relevant institutions to strengthen implementation, improve accessibility and ensure accountability, stressing that disability rights must translate from legislation into meaningful action.
There are still gaps with implementing these laws, disability laws at state and national level. There are still gaps with capacity of these new disability agencies. If you don't know how many we are as people with disabilities or where we are, there's no way the impacts can reach these people. A lot of the disability agencies are still adopting the charity approach.
We talk about challenges in education, challenges in transportation, challenges even in accessing healthcare services, challenges in accessing even capital to establish as a person with disability. Some of these barriers should be removed so that we can actually be able to operate like every other person.
A few months back, the Nigerian Bar Association adopted the disability inclusion policy. That's the first of its kind, at least in Nigeria. So yes, that policy has been passed and approved by the National Executive Council of the Nigerian Bar Association, and that's a very huge landmark for the forum.
This project is a platform to create awareness, strengthen the government organization at national and then state level, including supporting organization of persons with disability at the community level, for governments to put up a good mechanism for implementation and enforcement of the disability law.
The Federal Executive Council has approved an amendment to Nigeria's Mental Health Act aimed at decriminalizing attempted suicide. The proposed reform will shift the response from punishment to medical care, psychological support and rehabilitation for people experiencing mental health crisis. The amendment will now be transmitted to the National Assembly for consideration, marking a significant shift towards a more compassionate mental health response.
The amendment of the National Mental Health Act to allow for the decriminalization of attempted suicide in Nigeria. As you all know, suicide is a major public health concern in Nigeria as well as several other countries. According to the World Health Organization, it is responsible for more than 7,000 deaths annually, with an estimated 300,000 suicide attempts across the country each year. The impact extends beyond the individuals involved. It affects families, friends, and communities, with over 450,000 Nigerians requiring psychosocial support annually. And globally, suicide is the third highest leading cause of death among young people.
Joining us virtually is Dr. Olajumoke Koejo, a psychiatrist, Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, Lagos. Thank you so much for joining us, ma'am. I mean, how are you receiving this new update regarding the decriminalization of attempted suicide?
Thank you very much. Before now, attempting suicide, which is, of course, can be subsequent due to an illness, was a criminal offense. But today we are so happy, and this is an historic judgment, decision, policy by the federal government. You can imagine someone that's going through severe depression and getting to the level of suicide, and now making an attempt, and he's actually survived this attempt, and you're actually making this a criminal offense. The person should be treated.
Okay.
However, others that have hypertension, that are diabetic, they're not sent to prison, or there's no offense for being sick. So this judgment is a huge step in the right direction. I want to commend the federal government for this policy. Thank you.
So specifically, what are you looking out for? How do you think that we would, basically move on from now? What do you intend to see when this particular decriminalization comes out?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, for anybody that has attempted suicide, of course, for me, it's a psychiatric emergency. And those people, whether you have money or not, should be treated. There's need for psychosocial support. There's need for treatment. And I would even expect that for such persons at the verge of committing suicide, treatment should be made free for them, because they're actually giving up on life. And so, they need expert care, and that should be given to them whether they have money or not. Because life, once it's taken, you can't restore it back. That's my stand. That are things I expect the federal government, not just decriminalize it, but people that history or with attempted suicide should actually receive free treatment at that acute stage of care.
What specifically do you feel, as someone who has actually worked in that environment for quite a while, what specifically do you feel are what causes people to attempt suicide?
Thank you very much. Well, there are several causes of things that could cause suicide. Several psychiatric diagnoses could cause suicide, apart from socioeconomic factors and things like severe depression. A patient that has psychotic illness could want to commit suicide. Even someone that's coming out from addiction would want to commit suicide. So there are several reasons why our patients would want to commit suicide. And so there's really need for, in fact, prevention is the way to go. Because when you see such patients, they would have been going through some form of challenges along the line. And for them to get to that level, that means it's like the end of a spectrum. So why allow them even get to that end of the spectrum? Why not attend to them on time? And so I would expect free mental health care for patients, or subsidized care for patients with mental health issues.
Many thanks, Dr. Olajumoke Koyejo, psychiatrist, Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, Lagos. Many thanks for your time. We truly appreciate.
Thank you very much.
Reaching us right now. The chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, Mussa Aliyu, says another fake agency led by George Nwabweze has been discovered under the office of the SGF during the course of their ongoing investigation, and President Bola Tinubu has ordered for his arrest. That's the breaking update we're following for you at this hour. Just to also let you know once again that the chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission has practically told the press that there is a brand new fake agency that has just been discovered, and it's led by George Nwabweze. And that is actually under the SGF office. That's during the course of their ongoing investigation, and President Bola Tinubu has ordered for his arrest. We'll keep an eye on that to bring you up to speed with latest development regarding that. We're headed for a short break. When we get back, we'll turn our attention to some education stories. Just stay with us. Welcome back. This is a 6th edition here on News Central. Just to also remind you of our top story earlier, Chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, Mussa Aliyu, says another fake agency led by George Nwabweze has been discovered under the office of the SGF during the course of their ongoing investigation, and President Bola Tinubu has ordered for his arrest. We'll bring you detail in our subsequent bulletins. And to some education. Stakeholders in tertiary education across the North Central are calling for a shift from simply building infrastructure to using research, innovation, and technology to address real economic and social challenges. This was during the 2026 TED Fund's North Central Town Hall meeting in Lokoja, hosted by the Kogi State government to assess the impact of the Renewed Hope agenda on tertiary institutions in the region. News Central's Mana Balabobo monitored the conversations and now reports.
The town hall brought together government officials, tertiary institution managers, students and other stakeholders to assess the impact of the Renewed Hope agenda on higher education across the North Central. For institutions in the region, stakeholders say the challenge now goes beyond infrastructure, with tertiary institutions expected to become centers for research, innovation, and practical solutions.
Our tertiary institutions should become solution centers that support governments and industries with ideas capable of transforming our comparative advantage into food security, industrial growth, employment, and sustainable prosperity.
TED Fund's North Central Board member Hassan Ocholi says that the fund is also looking beyond infrastructure, with interventions increasingly targeted at addressing the region's developmental needs.
It is therefore imperative that the tertiary institutions in North Central Nigeria are adequately supported to produce the knowledge, skill, research, output, and innovation required to address developmental challenges confronting our people and the nation at large.
But stakeholders say the bigger question is what these investments ultimately produce. The emphasis, they argue, should now be on outcomes.
The question that we now to ask ourselves is this: are our teachers connected to industry? Are we commercializing our innovations? And are our young people leaving our institutions prepared not only to look for jobs, but also to become the creators of jobs and generate employment?
A new lecture theatre without quality teaching is not transformative enough. A modern library without current knowledge is also not transformative enough. A research center without research outputs is not physical, is not transformative enough. Therefore, the real measure must be impact.
In its communique, the North Central stakeholders also endorsed President Bola Tinubu and Governor Usman Ododo for a second term, citing their administration's interventions and reforms in education. In Kogi, the News Central, Morno Balagubu.
Peter Obi, presidential candidate of the Nigerian Democratic Congress, NDC, has challenged contenders in the 2027 election to publicly defend their records and plans for Nigeria. He spoke Friday at a press conference marking the launch of his campaign. Obi urged candidates to engage citizens directly instead of relying on representatives or surrogates to communicate their positions. He said Nigerians should have the opportunity to question the presidential aspirants and assess their records and propose policies. The former Anambra governor said effective leadership requires leaders to personally connect with communities. He argued that leaders must understand the experiences and concerns of citizens. He pledged to pursue a program focused on national unity, security, inclusive economic growth, and shifting Nigeria from consumption to production.
I consider myself quite privileged to be one of those seeking your mandate to deal with these challenges facing our country today. I entered this contest with one firm conviction: Nigeria can work and Nigeria must work. Leadership must deliver results. My successful private sector experience, studies in institutions of repute on policy and business matters, and my service as governor of Anambra State have shaped my understanding of public leadership. Governments must manage resources responsibly, set clear priorities, and measure the outcome of its decisions. Public office is not a reward. It is responsibility to the people.
Nigeria's federal government has unveiled the International Agro-tourism Village as an initiative to transform agriculture, tourism, and rural development into drivers of food security, job creation, and economic diversification. During a stakeholders forum in Abuja, the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, represented by Olawumi Ayodele, says that the village will comprise modern farms, processing facilities, eco-lodges, cultural centers, and training institutes.
The International Agro-tourism Village stands as a living testimony of this transition. For us, it's a determination to bring testimony of Nigerian transition from policy to implementation. It is the embodiment of our resolve to move species and strategies onto concrete action. The village is designed as a model where agribusiness, hospitality,
South African police have shot down a major crystal meth laboratory near Mussa, close to the Zimbabwe border, in an overnight operation. According to a police report, drugs and equipment worth an estimated 600 million rands, that's about $37 million, were seized. 5 suspects, including 2 Mexican nationals, 2 Zimbabweans, and a Malawian, were arrested as investigations into the operation continue. The Spanish police have cleared hundreds of migrants from Ceuta's trampoline beach, where they had been staying following mass arrivals from Morocco. The authorities say the migrants are being moved to ease pressure caused by influx. Most arrivals have returned to Morocco, while Spain has opened shelters for around 1,800 migrants who remain in Ceuta. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, here's another look at some of our major stories. FBI seeks court approval to explain reasons behind closed doors. Lawmaker CSO demand urgent rescue of 78 children. And 5 arrested in $37 million meth lab bursts near Zimbabwe border. Remember, you may send in your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Evo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Charles Pius. See you next time.